Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Ursa and today we're going to be talking about Civilization 7. A shock, I know, but specifically about the Civ 7 update that was recently dropped, showing a development roadmap plan for the next few months. You'll probably be aware that Civilization 7, since launch in the few weeks that it's been out, has had a fairly bumpy and mixed reception. It's fair to say that it's divided opinion in a lot of different ways. It's also worth pointing out that, broadly speaking, I am not a review channel. Reviewing games and treating things with a journalistic integrity is not something I'm qualified to do. However, I am a Civilization 7 channel. The vast majority of the content that I perform on this channel is based in Civilization 7 or previously Civilization 6. Thus, I am incredibly vested in the game doing well. Hence my interest in having a look through this development plan. What's in store for the game and what are we likely to expect coming up? I must point out that thus far, I have really enjoyed Civilization 7. I've enjoyed playing it. I think it's a fantastic game. But I agree with a lot of people when I say there are a lot of things that could be improved. So let's see what they are going to be improving. And most importantly, when. So this was the Civilization 7 update check-in February 27th, released on the Civilization 7 website and on their Discord. They stress that the team at Firaxis Games has been working quickly to address key areas of Civilization 7 that we prioritized and identified with the community's feedback and our own teams. Now, one of the ways that YouTubers and content creators generally can help in this matter is that we do have a little bit of a direct pathway to Firaxis and to some of the developers that we know. We've worked with them, we've visited Baltimore, I have working relations with a few of the development team. I think I've mentioned this before, but one of the ways that feedback can get back to the devs is directly from us. We are able to act as a little bit of a sponge, absorbing information from the internet and feeding back what we think are important priorities to the development team. It's not the only way, of course, they get feedback. They look at Reddit, they look at the comments, they look at the Steam reviews, they look at all of this stuff as well, and they have a whole host of data behind the scenes that they can look at that will either confirm or disprove theories and priorities that they have on their side. But remember, especially in places like the comments of my videos and Discord, it's important that you keep your feedback for the game coming along constructively if you can, because I absorb that information and I'm able to feed that directly back to the developers as well. It's just another arrow in your quiver. Today we want to provide a high-level overview of what you can expect in the next updates for Civilization 7, and there is a roadmap plan picture, which we are going to skip past briefly and come back to this later because they basically give text on it underneath. The next update is coming on March the 4th. That is only a few days away on Tuesday, and it will be called Update 1.1.0. Already, as much as everybody else has, I have enjoyed the fact that we've had multiple versions of updates with different patches. I'm not entirely sure if they've been keeping to the standard pathways of how update numbers work, but that's fine. It's going to be deployed across PC and console. Crossplay between PC and consoles will be re-enabled with the deployment of this update, unless you're Nintendo Switch. Crossplay was one of the big things that was touted as a reason for people to buy Civilization 7, the ability for all consoles to play multiplayer alongside each other. It was always going to be an incredibly ambitious and bold thing to try and pull off. I know that certainly a lot of content creators, when we spoke to the devs back in August, thought that it was an ambitious release to say the least. But it is interesting that Nintendo Switch keeps popping up, and it will pop up all through the development of this particular article, as a bit of a nuisance. The Switch is quite clearly wired differently. The hardware is not as capable, the programming is more confusing. Crossplay so far has been turned off. You have to back roll the patches of your game if you want to enable it on PC. I think broadly, whilst crossplay being put back on is a good thing, I'm more pleased that the consoles are getting back onto the development cycle that everything else is having. What you don't want is a situation where PC is at this point, if it's Windows, and then Mac, and then consoles beneath it, so that one is on 1.21 and one is on 1.12 and one is on 1.10. You don't want that. So I'm glad that the development cycle is back and evenly spread amongst everything. Update 1.10 includes a number of updates based on community suggestions and feedback. A full list of update notes will be shared on release, but some notable callouts of what you can expect can include the following. A new natural wonder to discover, the Bermuda Triangle, 3 to all players. Great. Does feel like we've needed a few more natural wonders in the game, so I'm always happy for more. Additional user interface adjustments, polish, and the addressing of reported issues. It's a little bit of a fluffy statement, that one. I think we'll get more details when the patch is actually rolled out, but I think it's fair to say that the UI has been one of the things that they have been most receiving feedback on from the community. The UI needs a lot of improvement, not just in terms of the general aesthetics. It can be very dark, it can be very monochrome, it can be very difficult to read what you're selecting. That's one issue entirely. I think the biggest issue that I've got with the UI is the lack of available information in the game. Already, my PC experience has been very different because I've already started integrating mods. Big shout out, as always, to Sucratact for the amazing UI mods that you produce. But there's a whole bunch of mods that are filling in the gaps of information by letting the game tell you more things. We need a bigger and more comprehensive Civipedia. That's something that is really important to the game. It's hugely empty in some things. The ability to right-click for information, I think, is a huge improvement that could be added. Making sure the tooltips, making sure the information of selections is all there. Information display. That's the second half of the UI, and I think that's the more important thing that they need to look at quickly. I'm not sure which reported issues they are talking about here, but we shall see. Significant changes to the modern age's cultural legacy path and victory. Now that's interesting. AI leaders will also be better at completing a cultural victory, so expect fewer explorer unit stacks. We content creators were having a little bit of a joke, a competition to see who could get the screenshot with the most explorers stood on top of each other on the same tile. I thought that I was going to win because I had a shot with about 18. I think the best I've seen is over 40. It is hilarious. 40 explorers just on a single tile. The icons almost went off the screen. It was brilliant. Let's divide this into two things. Getting the AI to be better at competing for a cultural victory is a huge improvement. And I think this goes beyond cultural victory. We want to see capable and talented AI. We want to see the AI pushing for victory conditions, playing well, expanding, warring, using every mechanism of the game properly. That's just something we want to see across all the victory conditions. So that's really good. But significant changes to the modern age's cultural legacy path and victory. Currently, the cultural legacy path in the modern age is to unlock explorers, spam as many of them out across the map as you can, and rush to claim artifacts. Now you need 15 in your empire. Normally there are about 3 or 4 for every continent, so depending on how big your map is and how many civilizations are around the map, it can be easy or harder. Then you simply rush up the culture tree to hegemony, where you unlock the second wave of artifacts. Again, another 3 or 4 appear per continent. And if you get 15, great. You can simply build a single wonder in any city called the World's Fair. And then the game is over. That's it. It's simply dig a few things out of the ground and then build a wonder. It's not particularly satisfying. But the problem with this victory condition as well is that if you are slightly late or slightly in competition with other people for these artifacts, you just won't get all 15. There are not enough on the map. Now, there are supposed to be other ways that you can get artifacts, such as overbuilding things in your cities. That is supposed to trigger a few narrative events, certain wonders. But out of the 15, if you get more than 2 or maybe 3 artifacts from any of these mechanisms, you're doing well. They do not appear anywhere near as quickly as they should. So it is one of these victory conditions that either you win way too early. I think the record on standard speed I have at the moment, I just ran a playthrough at turn 27. Considering an age is supposed to stretch anywhere from 125 to 200 turns, turn 27 is ridiculous. So you either win really quickly or you don't win it at all. This is a huge change. This is a massive change for the positive. I can't wait to see what they do here. I want to see a balancing of a lot of the legacy paths so that they all end roughly at the same time, so that you don't find like one is earned way before all of the others. And I also want to see a victory condition where it enables competition without soft locking that legacy path for everyone else. Because at the moment, if you have 2 civilizations civilizations that have 13 artifacts because they've both been rushing it, no one can win. It's just locked out and there are no more artifacts in the game. You can't trade them, you can't swap them, it just is. I think it's also fair to say that Civilization 6 and 5 to an extent had incredibly detailed and interesting cultural victory conditions with tourism. In Civ 6 you had national parks, wonders, great works, ski resorts, rock bands. I mean, take it or leave it, you may have really loved the cultural path or not, but it was one of the most complex and interesting victory conditions in the game. This has felt like a very, very strict oversimplification. So if we can push back to that level of excitement, I think we're going to be in a good place. You are now able to convert holy cities in the exploration age. Note that when players create their own missionary units, they will always follow the player's chosen religion. Now, this isn't actually a change. That's just how the game is currently. And people don't necessarily realize this. There are 4 states of religion that you can have in a settlement. It follows your religion, it follows someone else's religion, it follows no religion at all, or it has a mixed religion because the urban and the rural population is split in 2 different directions of 2 different religions. In all 4 of those cases, if you have a temple in that settlement and you make a missionary, which you always can, it will always follow your religion. So one tactic I've been using in Exploration Age is you settle over in distant lands, you don't even bother sending a missionary over, use your gold, buy a temple, and then immediately buy a missionary over, and you can just convert without having to move any units over. It's wonderfully simple. This is the change, being able to convert holy cities. Now, I think this is generally speaking a positive change. The whole reason you weren't supposed to be able to convert holy cities was because the developers wanted everyone to have a religion and for nobody's religion to ever be 100% removed from the game. So the idea was that your holy city is sort of the defensive bastion for your religion. It can't go anywhere. You can always make missionaries from it. However, that's not needed because you can always make your own missionaries regardless of whether or not your settlements follow your religion. So this isn't a needed mechanic, and it's even more important than that because holy cities tend to be, especially in the case of the AI, your most populated city, maybe even your capital. And so many of the reliquary beliefs either involve converting holy cities. I think there is one that actually is asking you to convert holy cities. I may be wrong, but I think I have seen that. Or at the very least, converting a capital city, or converting a city with a wonder, or converting a city with a temple. You could never actually unlock any of those with your religion because the holy city could never be converted. So this is a small balance, but I think this is an incredibly logical one, and I like this. I still think it's really important that the developers either decide that the extra beliefs are not in the game and disable them and remove that from the UI, or they actually tell people how to get to them because they are in the game at the moment. They're just really difficult to get to. I believe one of the extra beliefs is unlocked by converting, I think, about 80% of every New World settlement, which again is very tricky to do because if there are lots of holy cities in the New World, which there will be, 80% is a very large number. And I think there is a second one that is unlocked when you conquer a distant land holy city. But even I don't know if that's entirely correct. That's just what I've seen on Discord and Reddit because there are no tooltips. I would love to see that brought into the game properly. It feels like a bit of a hollow mechanic religion at the moment. It can be fleshed out so much. Naval units will be able to disperse coastal independent powers. Now, currently, naval units can effectively do the Civ 6 Norwegian Harold being able to pillage goody huts from coastal terrain. They can already do that. So if there's a cave or a cairn or something that is on an island, you can use your boat to grab it. I love that mechanic. I think that's really good. Being able to disperse coastal independent powers, fine. A small change, but an incredibly sensible one. This is the sort of thing that I think comes from just balancing and talking to the community. I'm all over this sort of small change. Balance pass on several mementos. There's a few things that are both brilliant and concerning about this sentence. Firstly, several. How much is several? There are well over 100 mementos at the moment, and let me tell you, they are not evenly balanced. I would say about half of them are so weak that there is no point in using them whatsoever. So that's dozens of mementos, and quite a few of them are so overpowered that you always play with them. I know at least 3 or 4 that are just so much better than every other memento in the game. It makes everything else totally redundant. I hope, and I know that I am a bit of a yield monster monster. I hope they don't cut the power of loads of mementos to make them all rubbish. I hope that they boost mementos because they should be powerful things. They should give you big bonuses. They should be exciting. They should change the way you play. Effectively, you have 2 extra powers. Your leader gives you a bunch of abilities that change the entire way you play the game. I mean, if you pick up Augustus, for instance, that is culture buildings in every single town. That is a wildly different game from any of the other leaders. Mementos should give you that sort of game expanding new experience every time. You know, what is this +1 attribute point? Yeah, okay, it's powerful, but it's not really very exciting. But 3 extra yields of gold and culture on unique improvements? That is game changing. That's wonderful. So I hope they don't cut the power of the best ones in order to try and smooth everything over. And I hope this isn't just several mementos. This is something that I would love to see community feedback on. Wouldn't it be amazing if every few weeks there was a big community vote where we could vote for the best and the worst mementos and then they just got evened out? Or like the worst mementos could get voted on for a buff, like a community contest. We could say, hey, no one uses this memento. Can we improve it? That would be really cool. I would love that. Refinements to the army unpacking action, fine. At the moment, you just simply press a button and all of your troops go blur. You can make sure that individual units are put on tiles that you want them to be on, but it's a little bit fiddly and you have to do 1 unit at a time. Maybe if there are better ways of doing this, that would be good. This isn't really that important though. Addressing reported issues with multiplayer and adding friends with a 2K account. I have heard this, the 2K accounts, they are so fiddly. When the game was pre-launch, the 2K accounts were giving me all sorts of problems because it wasn't saving my experience properly. So I'm already a little wary of these sneaky little accounts. Hopefully that's a pretty quick fix. We are just hoping that Civilization has an incredibly powerful, stable, and reliable multiplayer frame for us to play some good quality, 0 DC games. That would be the most amazing thing. And if this is just the sort of change that helps us towards that, I'm all on board with that. For console players, all prior updates from update 1.0.1, patches 1, 2, and 3, this is the naming thing that I was talking about before that I find this so funny, will be implemented in addition to the items noted above. Great. It was a shame that so early on all of the consoles had to get effectively left behind for the panic patches that came after launch. There was a lot of stuff to patch on launch. Is one of these big mixed reception things that has followed Civ 7 since it was launched. There are multiple areas of the game that just felt unfinished. It was a shame. And as a PC player, I am kind of glad that they rushed the patches out for us. It made a huge difference and I'm really grateful for that. But it does sort of add weight to what we were saying before, that trying to do all of the consoles at once is not so easy when you have to push something out quickly. The planned updates, absolutely fine. You can forecast and get everything to be launched at the same time as you go forward, but it's the panic updates is when you have a problem. Although our first in-game event, Natural Wonder Battle, was originally planned for update 1.1.0 on March 4, events are now being postponed to a later update to allow us more time to prioritize quality of life improvements for players worldwide. We'll share more details about the first in-game event once we're ready. Fine. Okay, this would have been really cool to have, but if the dev team are focusing in the first few months on making sure the game is stable, reliable, and patched properly, I am 100% on board with that, and I think 90% of players would probably be on board with that as well. If you have to delay the release of extra stuff to make sure what's already in the pot is delicious, that's fine. Besides, if you want a monthly event, you can always come across to the Ursa Ryan Discord because we've been doing monthly events for like years now. You know, plug. Also going live with update 1.1.0 is the first half of the paid Crossroads of the World collection, which is included in both the Deluxe Edition and Founders Edition of Civilization 7. Players who own either of these 2 editions or have purchased the Crossroads of the World collection separately will receive this content automatically with update 1.10. And that material is the new leader, Ada Lovelace, the new Civ's Great Britain. Thank goodness, as a British content creator, I did not have to wait long for Britain to be put in the game with Ada Lovelace, who, by the way, is an amazingly cool selection for leader. I could not be more in support of that. Ada was an incredibly interesting historical figure. I could talk about her. I'm not going to waylay the video right now. I was almost convinced it would be Henry VIII. And we're also getting Carthage in Antiquity and a natural wonder pack, including 4 new natural wonders: Machapuchare, Mount Fuji, Viren, and Vinukunka. I don't know what 3 of those are. That's going to be some fun Googling for me later. Fine. More material coming out. Yeah, is this very early for paid DLC just so shortly after the launch of the game? Yes, I do think that. I still stand by what I said before, where I would like to see at least 2 Steam sales go through, which is about 6 months because they're every quarter, before DLC comes out for a game. I think it gives the original game room to breathe, and it makes sure that patches and new content can give the quality and the expansion of the game for the people who bought it as best as possible. I think it's one of the best ways of keeping interest in the early stages of a game, is to keep patching it and to keep introducing new content as you go. This is a little bit early to be siphoning off what is quite expensive DLC from the main launch, but everyone's going to have their own independent analysis of that, and you know for you whether or not it is worth purchasing. All I know is that I am very lucky to have a Founders Edition, and I really want to see Britain, so yeah, very conflicted. So that is all the stuff that is coming up on Tuesday. Then we look forward even further to March 25th, 3 weeks after the first update. Update 1.1.1, that's easy to remember. Whilst the March 4th update is the first of many future major releases coming to Civilization 7, the one after that is slated for March 25th, subject to change. Here is a sneak peek at some of what is planned for that update. This is the stuff that seemingly they needed a little time more to cook it through. These are bigger joints of meat. Additional UI improvements and refinements. Specifics will be shared later. Note that this is a fun note. Ongoing improvements to the user interface continues to be a top priority for the development team. Good. Very good. The updates being introduced on March 25th are just one part of a much larger plan that aims to improve the UI over the next several months. Why add this note? Why put UI improvements on every single patch? They know, the dev team know that user interface is an incredibly active talking point for the game. I'm glad that they're putting the effort into it. It is a shame that all of these things weren't introduced on the launch of the game, but that's now gone. We cannot reminisce about that too much. It has been, it is gone. We have to look forward. If they continue to work on the UI, brilliant. And I am glad that the dev team feel the need to continually remind us that they're looking at it. That means that they have it down as a priority. They know it's a controversial topic. They know it's important for a lot of people. Brilliant. Scouting and settling improvements for AI, including less aggressive forward settling by the AI. I called this so early on when I said, people say in Civilization 6, you will say that you don't like the loyalty system, but you do, because you've forgotten what the loyalty system avoided, which is erroneous, aggressive, blight-like settling from the AI, putting tiny little settlements in that little gap between your cities, and you can't do anything about it. We have seen some hilarious forward settling by the AI in Civilization 7 so far. I don't know how they are going to stop the AI from doing this without introducing loyalty again. I hope they have a solution. Anything that just relies on an AI patch or change, I am a little skeptical of. I personally would love to see the loyalty system brought back into the game. I really liked it. I thought loyalty was a fantastic mechanism. It wasn't that hard once you get your head around it. You just have to get your head around it. That's the thing. But scouting and settling improvements for the AI is a really useful thing. I would love it if the AI organically built their settlement out so that all of their settlements were next to each other, rather than just sending a settler 39 tiles to the north to settle a single fish for seemingly no reason when all of the land around them is empty. Adding quick move functionality. I don't know why this isn't in the game already. In my head, it's easier to just remove the animations, just teleport the units from one click to another. Now, in the beginning of the game, in Antiquity, it's not a problem. As soon as you get naval units in exploration, or if you have any mechanisms that increase the number of tiles that you can move so that your unit is starting to move into the fog of war, animations take a long time. Planes take a long long time. The entire modern age takes a huge amount of time to cycle through the unit animations. I would love to see teleporting units. For the first time in a Civ release in a long time as well, I'm actually getting decent exposure to multiplayer, and I'm already seeing that quick movement and quick battles and all this stuff will be incredibly just useful and essential for multiplayer. Having to watch the animations of planes fly over can really slow down a game. I don't want 10-minute moves. I want 2-minute moves. I want Blitz Civ 7. That's what I would like to see. So I'm all about that. It's a shame it's taken this long, but that's a really, really positive change. Adding the ability to customize the names of commanders and cities. Again, brilliant change. I have to be a little bit selfish here. I have an amazing collection of channel supporters on Ko-fi and Patreon who I care for hugely, and I like to celebrate them by making units and cities named after them. I have not been able to do that in Civilization 7, so personally as a content creator, this is a huge change for me. However, I don't know what's so hard about this. What's the difficult thing? Why is this not up? Surely it's just renaming something. I don't know. I'm not a coder. I have no idea what's going on. I have to just trust. Renaming the existing maps to be start position balanced, which will be the default start position settling for multiplayer games. Okay, so what we're currently running through is essentially the multiplayer build, where the map seems to generate around the Civ and leader. So depending on who you pick, the map literally spawns a little bit of a quadrant for you with your biome, and then it makes the rest of the map later. I think it's very clever, and I haven't had any problem with this for multiplayer. Some leaders don't seem to have a very good start. How many times have you seen Pachacuti start with no mountains, for instance? It's hilarious how often it happens. But maps are a lot more balanced now, so that's not a bad thing. Adding a new start position of standard, where the landforms on maps are less predictable, closer to how map generation works in Civ 6. Hey, it may not be a multiplayer thing, but I am all up for different and interesting map types. The more map types we have, the better. It was actually one of my favorite things about mods in Civ 6 and in the base game of Civ 5. Once Civ 5 had a couple of patches and a couple of pieces of DLC, there were tons of maps you could play, and I've played some incredible maps in Civ 6. Just think Got Lakes, alternate cartography, yet not another map pack. There's been some brilliant maps. The more people that get to see more interesting and different maps, the better. Great. I can see how that might take a little bit longer to push through if it wasn't ready. This is something that should really have been on launch, but hey, we're past that point. Adding an optional restart button that re-rolls the map's generation now that these less predictable starts are possible. Now, they didn't put this in the game at the beginning, because I seem to remember the dev team very specifically saying that they were so confident about their map generation with this multiplayer setup that every Civ and leader would have a start they wanted. They didn't feel the need to have a restart button. They don't want players endlessly restarting. And we said at the time, totally understand that, love the confidence, people like a restart button. And this was one of the big things that happened on the Millennia launch. Millennia launched without a restart button, and it was quickly patched in because there was overwhelming feedback to say that people wanted to see it. I'm still slightly confused as to why that wasn't in the game, but at least that actually was a choice made from the dev team to back up their map generation. I can respect where they're coming from on that one. Another natural wonder, Mount Everest. Brilliant. More stuff for 3. Great. Update 1.1.1 will also include the second half of the paid Crossroads of the World collection. So this is where you get the second chunk of the DLC. So everything from Crossroads of the World will be with you by the end of March, according to these days. This includes a new leader, Simon Bolivar, returning from Civ 6, and 2 new civilizations with a Exploration Age Bulgaria. Interesting choice. I don't think we've seen Bulgaria in some time. And Nepal for the modern age, which is a wonderful inclusion. We need to see more mountain, interesting modern age civilizations. I think Nepal will fill in for a natural mountainous progression from a Civ like Inca, for instance. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Nepal does. It does make me think that, again, I do think Inca are one of the Civs that need a huge boost. They are just not very good, and the ability to work mountains really doesn't do much, and there's just a lot about them that is very underwhelming. So I'm interested to see how Nepal takes on a very similar challenge. Because it's DLC, we are expecting a little bit of the start of power creep. I'm expecting, this is just my take on this, Carthage, Great Britain, Bulgaria, Nepal, I am expecting all of these civilizations to be significantly high on the power spectrum. Whatever Nepal does to mountainous terrain, I think Inca is going to have a look at, and I wouldn't be surprised if Inca gets a buff at some point. Looking ahead, beyond March, we have several community requested items on our list that are high priorities for the team. I do like this constant assurance. Like, at some point, if everything is a high priority, what is a high priority? You need to have medium and low priorities as well, but hey, it's all good. Some examples of these include, this isn't a full list, ongoing UI improvements. It's back. They know it. That's all good. Adding a one more turn button that will let you continue playing past the end of the modern age. That was a strange decision for a game that was quite literally famous for the phrase one more turn, that they didn't allow you to play one more turn. Now, I'm split in half on this one. I can see why this is taking a long time to integrate into the game if it's not already in the game, because you have to effectively rewrite the age to allow you to play past the point of victory. None of the ages actually allow that. So if it wasn't in the game, that's going to take a little bit of time to write in. And as we all, I think, have hypothetically theorized by now, there's probably going to be a fourth age after modern, which is why they didn't bring in a one turn more, because I believe they were probably looking to do that with what is the true end of the game in the next age, which will be released on DLC at some point. I can see the theory crafting going on now, and it kind of makes sense to me. So yes, that is going to take a little bit of time to put in, but it should have been in the game already. So this will be a really positive introduction. A lot of people like to play one turn more. For me personally, as a content creator, it's a really, really important function, because I need to be able to go back into the map to find thumbnails to then explain at the end of the game why a run worked really well. At the moment, if I press end turn accidentally, I have to reboot an autosave in order to then go back and show people what I was doing. So as a content creator, huge improvement for me. Implementing auto explore. I feel like the devs have got themselves into a bit of a mental struggle with the concept of auto explore. We've seen them mention it in a couple of live streams already, but it's a lot more difficult in Civ 7 to implement because of the different ways that scouts now work. Scouts have the ability to explore, basically standing still and going, oh, I see everything, and the map expands and you see all of the unique cairns and caves and all of the goodie huts. And the devs have been worried that whatever auto-exploring function they've got in the game needs to be able to play off this nicely. Now, that is entirely fair. It is entirely true. You do eventually need some sort of mechanism to say, Scout moves forwards, maybe for 2 turns, and then explores, and then 2 turns, and then explores, or whatever mechanism they're going to do. It's a very simple algorithm, that. Or you could have some advanced AI where it looks at the map and says, do I need to find more at this point? Probably not. I do think, though, that they have got themselves into a bit of a muddle looking for a perfect solution when, right at the beginning of the game, all you would need to do is just say, hey, scouts have an auto explore. They wander around like they did in Civ 5 and Civ 6. Sure, they don't press the explore button, or maybe there's a little slider that says every 5 turns, explore. Something really simple like that. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be something where I can press the button and abandon all my responsibilities to the scout, and when it inevitably gets killed by a hostile village, I go, oh no, that wasn't my fault. That was just the auto explore. That's all you need. New map sizes, all platforms except Nintendo Switch. Again, Nintendo Switch popping up to ruin everyone's day. Now, I, like everyone else, was very surprised when the map sizes were limited to standard on the game's launch. However, I've played mods that unlock the bigger maps, and I can see exactly why this was a problem. So many of the mechanisms in the game, such as distant lands, legacy paths, balancing, settlement caps, once you increase the map size, a lot of these become very, very difficult. The way that Civilization 7 has been set up for balance, the map is incredibly important for that balance, as you increase it, the balance is all over the place. Now, we have already seen in previous editions of Civilization, and I'm thinking back to Civilization 5 after Brave New World, different mechanisms that change how the mechanics work based on the size of the map. In Civilization 5, every settlement or every city you had increased the amount of culture you needed to get a social policy. However, on large and huge maps, the amount it increased by was a lot less than on standard or smaller maps, so it encouraged you to go wider on bigger maps. Equally, the amount of happiness penalty you had every time you made a city was much less. These are the sort of tweaks that the game needs to make in order to encourage and perfect the behavior of the balance on larger maps. So I can see why that's taking a large amount of time. I have played on huge maps. The game is not balanced on huge maps at all, but it does need to be brought in because a lot of people really like those large map types, myself included, and a more responsive balancing system goes beyond the maps themselves. I would love to see a more responsive balancing system. Sliders, tools, ways to set the game up that can specifically allow you to fiddle with the difficulty settings and the victory. We've already seen at the moment the legacy paths can be changed slightly with the age length. Do we have short ages? Do we have standard? Do we have long ages? That is a good change, but we need more of that flexibility. We should have options for how restrictive the settlement cap is, how much tech and culture we need to get to the end of the tech tree, how many bonuses the AI gets, much more responsive builds. So it goes beyond map sizes for me. I think we should have a lot more just in the way of being able to set the game up and then for the game to balance itself around that. New resource types and adjustments to map resource allocation. Better maps are always good. I'm always happy with changes towards that. New resource types, great. That's new content. Lovely. Gimme more. Gimme. Any game that has more complexity in it generally seems to be a good thing. So more variable resources. Love it. Teams support in multiplayer. Again, I believe this was probably a balancing issue for them that they had to go through, but we really need this because a lot of tournaments and a lot of competitive multiplayer rely on the teams function. I myself would love to see this. So I am all up for teams happening as quickly as possible. Hot seat local multiplayer. The topic there. I've seen the stats. Genuinely no one played hot seat, but for a very small amount of people, this is a very important topic. I'm really glad to see it back in. So that is a positive change as well. Research queuing. 2 questions. Why is research queuing down here and not in the most recent updates? And why is research queuing not in the base game? All you have to do is press shift. How difficult is it to queue your research? I do not understand why this is a difficult thing to do. Please, in the comments, I am not a developer. I do not code. Why do we think research queuing in this game is so difficult to implement compared to other Civilization games? It strikes me as mind-boggling. Just select one and then select a second, and all the game has to do is say, oh, when one is finished, start the other one. I don't know. That is a quality of life thing. I could not tell you why that's not already in the game. Mod tools and Steam Workshop support. This is a very PC-orientated thing and a very Steam-orientated thing. Modding is one of the most amazing sources of lifeblood in any Civilization game. I am all power to mods at all points. Already the moderators, they're on my Discord. The mods, they have produced some amazing mods that are already saving the game for me in terms of quality of life and user interface adjustments. Sucratact is the exact reason why every game needs Steam Workshop support. That's brilliant. I don't think we are ever going to see console support for mods. I'm really sorry. I know it's possible. I know some games have done it, but it is a real pain to implement. I think you're going to be waiting a while. But in the meantime, if us PC players can have a more natural integration of Workshop, that's great. The big problem we have at the moment on PC is you manually install a mod, and every time the mod is updated by the modders who are doing an amazing job, you have to manually delete and re-up it. The best bit about Steam Workshop is that it automatically updates your mods, which is a wonderful thing. Mod tools, the more mod tools are available to the modders, the better the mods are going to be. The more people are encouraged to start modding, the more people that can use modding to learn coding. It's such a positive tool for the community. I would love to see it implemented. Additional game setup customization options. This cannot be brought in sooner. I think this is one of the topics that mods themselves are going to implement really quickly. I would love to see more options on the startup of a game. How much coast? How hot? How cold? How much tundra? How much marsh? How much mountain? How aggressively do civs settle near each other? The number of villages? Whether villages are aggressive or not? How difficult the tech trees are to get later into the game? The length of ages? There's so much that could be done on the customization options of games. I want to see it. And more! Yay! The only problem with anything on this list is this is just at some point. This is not dated in any way. So whether we're going to see any of this stuff in April or May, if we have a look at the schedule, there is an update coming in April. Maybe we're going to see some more stuff. I mean, and more is written here, but equally beyond. This is the bit that concerns me a little bit because one more turn has been promised in April. Research queuing, April. Multiplayer teams, new resource types, all in April. However, auto explore, modding, hot seat, AI improvements, none of this has been committed for the next 2 months. So yeah, we're going to be waiting. We're in the process of scoping the work necessary to bring these priorities to the game as soon as we can. Some of these will be delivered as early as April, subject to change, though many will take longer to develop, test, and deploy. As always in development, plans can change and we'll have more details to share here in the weeks and months ahead as plans solidify. We appreciate your continued patience in the meantime. You know what? I think this launch has really shown me the powerful of a proper early access build. Imagine if not just content creators, but the general public were able to play maybe the first 50, the first 60 turns of an age months beforehand. We're talking back in like November. Imagine the amount of quality of life updates that could have been rushed through based on community feedback. It's a shame because it feels like the launch happened and then people went, oh, what needs changing? And it could have been done before launch, but the devs are taking it very seriously. I'm hoping this means that the pace of change for Civilization is going to be rapid. We know, and we have seen previously in Civilization launches, that with 5 and with 6, the games weren't very good until DLC fixed them effectively and made them more complete games. I think this is no different. It's just a shame that it seems to have been even more like that than before. But there is a huge amount of positive stuff on this update list. Where can I share feedback? If you're looking to share feedback on Civilization 7, want to stay up to date, or are just looking for a place to talk with other Civ players, check out the Ursa Discord. None of these official places. The Ursa Discord is where over 20,000 people who love Civ have gathered. We have detailed explanations for how to install mods. We have areas explaining advanced Civ chat, as well as no stupid questions for people that are joining the game. We're running multiplayer events. It's a really lovely place. I would massively encourage you to pop along to Discord. Plus, I have the save files for every single game that I play on the channel. You want to come along and play any game you can see me playing on YouTube, this is the place for you. Is there anything from this update you think that I have missed? If so, let me know in the comments of this video. Always interested in your thoughts. As I say, I am not a review channel. I am not journalistically qualified to tell you fundamentally whether a game is good or bad. All I can tell you is that I'm really enjoying Civilization 7 and I have frustrations with the game, but I am generally pleased with it and I'm looking forward to these improvements being pushed through as quickly as possible. I think the bones of the game are fantastic. I think it needs a lot of polish, or as some of the statements in the announcements have made, it needs a bit more polish, but in either case, hopefully this is the sign that things are starting to move in the right direction. You want to see more of this sort of content? Please like the video, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye!